Hi everyone, I'm TSW, and in this video I'm going to be going through all the different buffs which you want as a Fury Warrior and show you the damage that they will give you, and just learn a bit more about the buffs, because a lot of them change going from TBC to Wrath of the Lich King. Certain buffs stack, other buffs don't stack, and it can be a bit of a minefield once you're jumping into pre-patch or into Wrath of the Lich King leveling to 80. What buffs do I want? Which ones matter most? Maybe you're doing 10 man and you're wanting to help the DPS or the physical DPS specifically, and with this video you'll be able to see the relationship between each of the buffs, which ones are good, which ones are not so good, the important ones, and yeah, let's just get stuck in. But before we do, subscribe, and link to Discord where you can find me, ask questions, and the links to all the spreadsheets and stuff will be there. So yeah, without further ado, let's actually start. So these are ranked in terms of damage or percentage gained. As we go down, we can see which the different buffs are. This is the DPS of a Pre Raid BIS geared Fury Warrior. So working with these, there's going to be, some margin for error, but generally speaking, this is fairly good, accurate set of numbers. I'm using a retail spreadsheet from Landsol, and I'll be exploring more about that and sharing, different gear sets and things going forward until we get some sort of like better sim once more Wrath of the Lich King beta has been played and people making the simulations or spreadsheets or whatever. But for now, the Landsol spreadsheet is a fantastic spreadsheet. I use it in retail. I've used it before on servers, and yeah, it's fantastic. So for the third time, let's actually start. Okay, so pre-raid, the best buff you want as a Fury Warrior is the Strength and Agility buff, either supplied by a Strength of Earth from a Shaman with improved talents 3 out of 3. This is very easy for them to get. It's the first line in their talent tree, so they should have this, or a Death Knight with their Horn of Winter. Both provide the same buff, assuming the Shaman has 3 out of 3 improved talents, and this is the best single buff you can get in the game as a Fury Warrior. 406 DPS, about 10% DPS gained. Okay, great. Moving on, we have the second best buff for Fury Warriors pre-raid. It's the Winfrey Shaman. 2 out of 2 improved. The improvement increases the haste by 4%, so it's 16 untalented, 20 talented, or just a standard Frost, DK's Icy Talons. So if you're a warrior, you definitely want to be getting the Shaman involved or a Frost Death Knight. Both of them can give you these 2 best buffs for you in a raid environment. Fantastic. Next, we're going for the Attack Power Addition buff. This is either a Blessing of Might or a Battle Shout. These don't stack. Anything grouped together does not stack, okay? So what you'll find here is the Paladin buff is actually better than the Warrior buff, even though both of them can be improved through talents. So what you will see is Warriors, if you're in a 25-man environment and you're guaranteed improved Blessing of Might, you're not going to spec and waste any talent points in improved Battle Shout or any talents of that nature, because you're just going to be relying on the improved Blessing of Might, because it gives you more attack power, more damage, and that's that. Why waste the talent points? Maybe if you're doing 10 mans and stuff, sure, knock yourself out. But if you can guarantee getting the improved Blessing of Might, why bother? And you can see the difference here. It's not huge. You're doing about 346 DPS with the Paladin's improved Blessing of Might versus 305 DPS from the Warrior's improved Battle Shout. It's there if you want it, but if you really want something, it's going to be improved Blessing of Might. Okay, moving on. We have now Attack Power Multiplier buffs. Now, there are definitely a load of buffs here which are going to get much better the more gear you have. Again, this is just with pre-raid gear. So this is like with crafted gear and yeah, like the best gear you can get without actually getting anything. It's a bit sad, actually. I'd hate to see someone with this kind of gear set But yeah, it's the technically best pre-raid gear. Although I don't expect anyone to get that kind of gear. Anyway, because you're going to be raiding at some point. Anyway, moving on. It's not related really. Shaman Unleashed Rage. So this is a talented ability, which I believe the 3/3 talents make it an actual raid buff as well. Like a raid aura thing from the Paladins. Sorry, from the Shaman's Unleashed Rage. The Blood Knight, Death Knight, Abomination's Might just has the buff. And then they don't need to improve it. They just need to spec into the blood talents. And what this does is increase your attack power by 10. Now, obviously, once you gain more strength, more attack power, the 10% increase is going to give you more and more damage. So this attack power buff is going to be better and better the more gear you have. So if I do this again for, say, best in slot tier 7, the attack power multiplier buff is going to shoot up the table here and go higher and higher. But yeah, you're not going to have a marksmanship hunter for the true shot aura. It's just not worth it, particularly when it's so easy for a shaman to get unleashed rage or to have a blood DK. Maybe you'll have a blood DK, but I mean, you're definitely going to have a blood DK or a shaman with unleashed rage. So that's nice. But, you know, I say probably. It's still worth making sure, because as a Fury Warrior, you're gaining about 7.87% more damage, 322 DPS, so that's nice. And then we go next to the crit buff. This is 5% crit. If you can guarantee having a Fel Druid in the raid, you don't need to spec for Rampage as a warrior. I don't think there are any talents after Rampage that require it, you know, with the arrow. So you can literally not spec Rampage as a warrior. So Rampage changes in TBC. That brings me on to another video actually. In the coming days, I'm going to be uploading a new video going over the changes for warrior. So if you play warrior or want some background information on warrior, subscribe, stick around for that video, where I'll be going through all the changes for warrior and the new spells, how they differ, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, back to this video. Let's try and finish this video first, yeah? So 5% crit, yeah, it gives you about 6.77% damage or 280 DPS. Cool. Crit buff. It's raid wide. It's going to be from a Fel Druid or from a Rampage spec'd Fury Warrior. Next. Okay, another debuff which is only going to get better and go through the roof and be ranked much higher is obviously armor debuff. Once you get a certain amount of armor pen, that'd be really nice to work out actually. What level of armor pen do you actually need for armor pen to then spiral out of control and become better than strength? Anyway, again, idea for another time. This is all 20% reduced armor. It's either 5 stacks of a Warrior's Sunder armor, 2 stacks of a Hunter Pet's Acid Spit, or exposed armor from a rogue. The more combo points you have, the longer the exposed armor lasts. But in reality, it's probably going to be a Warrior Sunder armoring. So that doesn't change much from vanilla or TBC. You know, Warrior Sunder armor is good, particularly if you have multiple Sunder armors. It's less of a burden on one of them. But yeah, it's a flat 20% reduced armor, so it's a bit easier to visualize or conceptualize the armor reduction maybe for some, knowing that now it's a 20% reduction of armor, and that's the DPS and percentage damage gained. Next we have stat multiplier buff, the Blessing of Kings. Now this again is something that's only going to get better as you get more strength. You're going to get more attack power from the stat multiplier buff, and in total it's going to be about 5.9% increased damage, which is about 246 DPS. Cool. Next, bleed debuffs. This is either from an Arms Warrior's Trauma or a Feral Druid's Mangle, increasing all bleed effects caused to the target by an additional 30%. So that's cool. Hopefully, you know, well, you're going to have a Feral Druid, hopefully, and then sometimes maybe an Arms Warrior. We'll see. But you're going to have one of them, and if you don't have one of them, you're missing out on 5% damage. Kind of a shame. Bring a Fel Druid. Okay, and then next we have just straight up damage buffs from an Arms Warrior's Blood Frenzy or a Combat Rogue's Savage Combat. So the Combat Rogue is probably going to be here, as well as the Fel Druid, just to, you know, start making the building blocks of a raid comp, because the Arms Warrior can get superseded from the Fel Druid just for the Fel Druid's utility and what have you, and then it's just the Arms Warrior for the Blood Frenzy when the Combat Rogue is going to be supplying that anyway, assuming that you're bringing a Rogue. So you basically, yeah, I mean, whatever. Maybe another video for another time. Okay, so yeah, 4% increased physical damage taken. Oh, look, the damage is about 4% increased from the Fury Warrior. Who'd have guessed? 169 DPS from the 4% increased physical damage. Cool. And then we have the crit debuff. This is 3% additional crit, either from a Paladin's Heart of Crusader, Assassination Rogue, Master Poisoner. No, you're not going to see those. Or most commonly, an Elemental Shaman's Totem of Wrath. So this is a really good totem because it actually benefits physical, as you might have guessed, by increasing the damage of the warrior. So what the Totem of Wrath does is not only increase spell power from everyone in the raid within range by 100 spell power, it also increases the crit chance by 3% of everyone within 40 yards of the totem. So that's really big, and you're going to have an Elemental Shaman, right? So the crit buff is basically there. Nice. As long as you're in range of the totem, get a weak core or something to show that you're not in range, and then yell at the Elemental Shaman. At least that's what I plan to do. Next, we have the Stat Addition buff. This is Mark of the Wild, and it can be improved 2 times via talents. When it is improved, like I've not updated the tooltip here, but when it is improved, that's 3.11% increased damage or 133 DPS. Nice. You can see these are getting much smaller damage increase just because we're getting to the bottom of the list. Damage buff. This is just a straight up 3% damage increase from a Ret Paladin's Sanctified Retribution, a Beast Master Hunter's Ferocious Inspiration, or an Arcane Mage's Arcane Empowerment. Again, these are talented abilities or ones that are improved via talents. And yeah, you're going to have at least one of these, hopefully, probably 2 or 3. Depending on your raid. 3% increased damage. Nice, lovely, love it, thank you. Next, these are the minor armor debuffs. Now, these minor armor debuffs do stack with the major ones, so your Sunder armor, the Pet debuff, and the Expose armor. These stack with these minor debuffs, but these minor debuffs don't stack with themselves, nor do the major armor debuffs either. But these 5% reduction in armor debuffs, yeah, these are great. You either get one from a Fairy Fire, you get one from a Hunter Pet Sting debuff. No, you're going to get it from the Fairy Fire. And then in the spreadsheet I'm using, it mentions a Warlock's Curse of Vulnerability, and this is not an ability that I'm familiar with. So was this removed in a later patch or what? Why is this here? So if you know anything about Curse of Vulnerability, please let me know in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious. And what that 5% reduction in armor of the target is about 60 DPS or 1.38% damage increase. And yeah, this is only going to get better. Once you start rolling in the armor penetration, this is just going to shoot up in benefit for your physical in the raid, particularly your warriors, because they're going to be, I think, the first class to start stacking big amounts of armor pen. Next is 3% haste. Now, again, this all stacks with the Death Knight and the Shaman 20% haste. This is the minor haste that does stack. It's either going to be from a Ret Paladin's Swift Retribution or a Balanced Druid's Improved Moonkin form. So either of these are going to go, like if you have Ret Paladin, they're going to have Swift Retribution, and if you have a Moonkin, they're going to have Improved Moonkin form. So, you know, you're probably going to have either of these or maybe both of these in your raid. You know, 3% haste, 1.35% damage or 59% DPS. Cool. Next, we have a very small armor buff. But as a warrior, you get attack power from your armor, if you're using the talents at least. And the little bit of armor you get from Devo Aura is about 23% DPS, or from the Shaman Stone Skin totem is 8%. So if you've got multiple Shamans and they don't know what totems to drop, you know, a Stone Skin totem is not only good for the tank to stay alive, but also a little bit of damage for the Fury Warrior. Okay. And next we have some consumables, Flask of Endless Rage. It's good to have context of not only the buffs, but also like the consumables. About 2% damage increase using a Flask of Endless Rage with Pre Raid BIS, or about 90 DPS. And then for the food, it's about half of the damage increase of the Flask. And then the raid cooldowns, these are averaged out over a 10-minute period. So if this was a 5-minute fight, you could double these values essentially to to have twice the percentage uptime of the lust or the heroism. Okay, and then if you have 2 warriors using a shattering throw every 5 minutes, again, it doesn't look like much, but again, these are raid wide buffs for every physical, or the haste for every person, or the reduced armor of the target by 20%. Shattering throw, I love shattering throw. If you're receiving tricks of the trade, you probably won't do initially, but maybe later on the warrior will receive maybe a tricks of the trade. And if you are receiving a tricks of the trade in Pre Raid BIS, what's the duration? 6 seconds of 15% increased damage. It averages out at being, obviously you could wait and use it with cooldowns. That'll give you more damage, but as an average, what's doing your regular rotation, averaging out at 127 DPS or just shy of 3% increased damage. And again, this goes with Hysteria as well. Very cool buff that the Death Knights bring to another player. 20% increased damage for 30 seconds. So as an average in a 2-minute window, that's 141 DPS. But again, all of these could be significantly more. But again, these are averaged out as you're doing your rotation over the course of the downtime, 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 30 seconds or 2 minutes. Okay, and that's the video. If you enjoyed this or have any feedback, like and comment. Again, I'll be doing spell changes in Wrath Lich King for the warrior if you want to subscribe for that, as well as a load more content coming up. Try and make some gear sets. I'll show you what this gear set I made for Fury Warrior, as well as tier 7, tier 8, and all that good stuff. So again, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.